Howdy, and welcome to LeeReads, where I talk about the books I've been reading and enjoying lately. On cue, the kitten shows up. The last few months, I feel like I've been in a little bit of a refilling the creative well phase where I've been reading a lot. June was no exception to that. I had a very solid reading month. Two of them are some large fantasy novels that I started actually back in May and June, and it's taken me this long to complete them. Finally, I can say that I have read and finished Rhythm of War by Brandon Sanderson, book 4 in the Stormlight Archive. It's been on my TBR for a very long time. I've been quite slow in reading the series, and that's not to say it's because I'm not enjoying it, because I very much am. I'm just very attached to some of the characters, and I get a little apprehensive about bad things happening to them. So it makes me a little slow in picking up the next installments. However, I really liked Rhythm of War. I enjoyed this one more than Oathbringer, which was number 3. And there were a lot of great Cosmere revelations in this one. Of course, it's very hard to summarize other than that because it's book 4 out of a projected 10-book series. The Stormlight Archive is an epic fantasy series following a host of characters as they are basically manifesting powers that are slowly returning to the land. The magic system is very intricate and structured, because it's a Brandon Sanderson magic system, and the world building is very unique. And with each book, it's getting more and more expansive. You're learning more, and it's tying more into the Cosmere. Definitely giving us more and more and more tidbits to tie everything together, which I'm enjoying. The other large fantasy is a somewhat new release, The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. It was my first Mark Lawrence. It follows two main characters that are linked together through this magical library that is almost a world of its own. One of the characters, she's kind of an orphaned desert rat, and she's being trained as a scholar and a librarian, because all of civilization's current knowledge is housed in this library in the city. It's very highly guarded, but it's also an invaluable resource. The nobility and the wealthy research to find answers to important questions, and they essentially have to send these librarians and their students out on quests to go find the reference books that they need, because the library on the inside is a very unique and dangerous and magical place. So we're learning about the inside of the library through the eyes of someone from the outside. And then the other main character is someone who has basically been raised in the library since his childhood because of some magical stuff that happened. And I very much enjoy how their two stories weave together, how they interact not only with each other, but the other side characters that kind of cluster around them. The library is very cool, somewhat mythical, and it actually reminds me a lot of a particular Doctor Who episode, and I don't want to say which one because I don't want that to be spoilery. We can talk about it down in the comments.
It's the timey-wimey thing. Timey what?
Like that sort of thing. Not that this is campy in any way. I think that you would enjoy this fantasy novel. It's a bit of a slow burn, but it really builds into a great crescendo at the end. And it's also it's not staying alone. It's the first of a series. And I'll tell you a little bit about this other physical book I have, Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. Finally read it. Really enjoyed it. I don't think it's my favorite T. Kingfisher, but that's because I love her books a lot. So even though this wasn't my favorite, I still gave it 5 stars. It's about a woman who is actually the princess of a very small nation that's very politically important. And her elder sisters have sort of gotten trapped into marriage due to political reasons. The eldest died. Now the second one is married to that prince. And it's not good, but she can't just come home because of the political implications. So Mara has set out on a quest to save her sister by killing this prince. And in order to enlist the help of a powerful person, she has to perform these 3 impossible tasks. She picks up these allies among the way that are very unusual. It's a short read, so I don't want to say much more than that, but it has the typical T. Kingfisher sense of humor. It is unusual, twists on fairy tale tropes. I'm glad that I have it, and I'll probably reread it. And now I'm even more excited for the next T. Kingfisher standalone that's coming out in August. Okay, I actually have 2 contemporary. Yellowface by R.F. Kuang, which is satire about the publishing industry. It follows the story of a woman who is a writer, but her career has never really launched like the career of her frenemy, who becomes publishing's darling girl and is given all of the publishing support and all of these great deals. And June, the main character, has always been a little bit jealous. She's there when this author has an accident, and then she's in the position to be able to take the first draft that the author was working on, and she edits it and she passes it as her own. And then, as I said, it's a satire. June is a really unlikable character, and we follow with her with how that gamble unfolds for her. And also it has a lot of commentary on the publishing industry. It has its flaws just like anything else, and R.F. Kuang is that darling girl, but is in a really good position to just talk about some of these issues. So I read Yellowface in 1 or 2 sittings. I think it's my favorite by her. Then I read Warrior Girl Unearthed by Angeline Booley. It's a contemporary story with somewhat of a mystery thriller element, but it's really highlighting the Native American tribe that she is a part of in Michigan. The main character, it's YA, she's 16 or 17, and she becomes part of this cultural summer camp because she has to find a job, and winds up learning all about how artifacts and their ancestors have been stolen basically by grave robbers, given to different museums, academic institutions, and the struggles in them trying to get their family members and those artifacts back to the tribe. So that's in the background of the plot, but also there are women going missing in her area, and she gets involved in that. It was a very compelling read. I actually bought it at the airport. Then I had some flight delays and wound up reading the entire thing in that 1 day of travel, because that's how long I was just sitting on airplanes. It's been many years since I read this one, and I saw it on Audible, and on a whim, I picked it up just to take a little bit of a break from the science fiction I had been listening to, and that is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I don't even know how to describe this one. It's an urban historical fantasy, sort of. The contemporary part of the story, it's following this woman who is a historian. She studies the history of alchemy, and also she's a witch who doesn't want anything to do with her witch heritage, but she accidentally summons this alchemical book, and as soon as she does that, it just sets off a chain of events, because it turns out tons and tons of other creatures are interested in that book. The witches, demons, vampires, the creatures know about each other. They aren't really supposed to interact at all, because the more they interact, the more humans may notice them, which is bad. So now she's being hounded by these creatures who either think she has this book or wants her to get it back. And one of those is this Oxford scholar, physician, vampire who is very interested in the genetics of different creatures and how they have evolutionarily gotten to where they are. And he's afraid that they're going extinct. So as they start interacting over the hunt for this manuscript, a relationship starts to develop between them, which is forbidden by, the governing body of the creatures. And I really enjoyed it. I decided to buy it for my bookshelf. So I got the trilogy, and I imagine that in the near future I will be completing that trilogy, because it's just a good mixture of, it's got the romance in it, it's got a lot of historical in it, especially book 2 gets quite historical. And I like the characters. It's just really fun. So I've just been enjoying that for a bit of escapism. I think that's it. I think that's everything that I read in June. Quite diverse, I think, as far as different types of fantasy, different types of contemporary, still mood reading. And if I pick anything up for the rest of this month, I'm going to prioritize some e-arcs that I have. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, don't forget to support your local library. Thanks. Bye.